Hey guys, here we are one more time. Cal 1, we are doing more um, derivatives using the differentiation rules. So we're going to differentiate using the differentiation rules. Here we go. Let's jump right in. Cal 1 here. It's just math. Okay, so this one says let the function be 2x squared minus 12x plus 4. And it says find all values of x where the slope of the curve is 0. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is remember that the slope of the curve, this is the derivative. This is actually what they mean by the derivative. Okay, and so we're going to do the derivative of this function. So the derivative of this function is going to be a 4x minus 12. Okay, so we did the 2 times the 2, that gave us the 4. Subtract 1 off that exponent gave us x to the 1. We did the 1 times 12, which gave us the 12. Subtract 1 off that exponent, and that gave us 0, which means there's no x at all. The derivative of a constant is just 0. So we have no, that's the derivative of the function, 4x minus 12. So now that we know that that is the derivative, they want to know is where is the derivative 0? So let's just set this equal to 0. And then we just solve this. Some of you can solve this in your head. And the derivative equals 0 when x is 3. F prime of x equals 0 when x is 3, which means that the slope of the curve at x3 has a horizontal, remember that? Horizontal tangent line, which is going to be very important. Okay? All right, so now this time they want to know when the values of x where the slope of the curve is negative 4. So now I've got 4x minus 12 equal negative 4. So add 12 to both sides again, and I get 8. So this time x is going to be 2. So this time x is going to be 2 is where the slope of the curve is negative 4. Could do another one of these. Here we got another radical here. All right, we got to be careful. Remember, this is going to be 4. After my pen. Goodness, let's try again. So now we're going to have, this is going to be 4x to the 1/2 minus 2x. We're going to change our radical to a fraction. Okay, so now we're going to do the derivative. All right, so we're going to get 2x to the negative 1/2, okay, minus 2. Now, where did that come from again? Let's just refresh. Okay, let's try that. All right, so we do 1/2 times 4. 1/2 times 4, that's half of 4, which is 2. That's where that one comes from. And then we subtract 1 off of 1/2. So then we're going to do 1/2 minus 1. And again, you can start learning how to do this in your head. 1/2 minus 2/2, which would be a negative 1/2. So that's where that comes from. So that's how I got the derivative. All right, so now on the second one, there's a 1 there. So 1 times the negative 2, that's where that negative 2 came from. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. Remember, x to the 0 is just 1. It's not even an x. So that's how I got the derivative. Okay, so now it says find all the points where the tangent is horizontal. Horizontal means that the slope is 0. And remember, the derivative is a formula for finding that slope. So when I do the derivative, I'm creating a formula for finding the slope. And so I have 2x to the negative 1/2 minus 2. And we want to know when is this actually going to equal 0. So now I'm going to have to solve this, which may be a little tricky for you. So I have 2x to the negative 1/2 is equal to positive 2. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I get x to the negative 1/2 is equal to 1, and you're thinking, I have no idea what x to the negative 1/2 is. Well, let's look at it. That's 1 over the square root of x. When is that going to be equal to 1? Well, it's basically when I multiply both sides by the square x, I'm going to get 1 is equal to the square root of x. Raise both sides to the second power when x is 1. Okay? When x is 1, we have a tangent horizontal. All right? So now we're going to do the same thing, but now this time we're going to do when is it equal to negative 3/2. This one might be a little more interesting. So this is going to, I'm going to add 2. Why don't I multiply by 2? Let's get rid of this fraction here. Let's multiply everything by 2 just to kind of, so I don't have to deal with that fraction anymore. So now we have 4x to the negative 1/2 minus 4 equal negative 3. All right, so now I don't have to deal with that fraction as much. So I have 4x to the negative 1/2 is equal to 1. Divide by 4. I have x to the negative 1/2 is equal to 1/4. Now let's think about what that means. X to the negative 1/2 is 1 over the square root of x. And that's going to be 1/4. It's still raining outside. So we'll multiply both sides by the square root of x. And I get the square root of x over 4. Multiply both sides by 4. I get the square root of x is 4. Ran out of room. Okay, square both sides and I get 16. I get 16. All right, now, is that right? Now remember, whenever you're doing these square root problems, you do have to do a mental check. Okay, you do have to do a mental check to make sure this is right. All right, so I am going to have to check this. I didn't give myself enough room to check it on this slide. So let me find some scratch over here somewhere. Let's see. Okay, so if I take it right here, I gotta plug in the 16. I did the other one in my head. It made sense to me, but this one I'm not 100% sure about. So if I do 2 times 1 over the square root of x, which is what that means right there, minus 2 equal negative 3/2. Okay, and I put a 16 in there. I think it's going to work just fine. I've got 2/4 minus 2 equals negative 3/2. I think that's right. I definitely think that's right. 1/2 minus 2 is in fact equal to negative 3/2. So that answer checks. That answer checks. Okay, a little bit crazy right there at the end checking our answer, but be careful with these radicals. I know you're not used to it, but you can do it. It's just math, y'all. You can do it. It's just math.